Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. My name is Catherine and today I'm going to show you how I created this card I'm calling the Man in the Woods weeks. So let's talk about the supplies we need for this card. For stamps, I will be using the Lavinia headdress, Inspire Me stamps, Zaya, the Spiral of Spells, and this is called the Leaf Mask. For inks, we'll be using some VersaFine Clear, Twilight, and Nocturne. I also have some Elements inks, so I'll be using Midnight Blue for some shading around the edge of my card, and we'll be using greens and yellows for this card. So I've got Parrot Green, Lemon Drop, Green Sleeves, Pixie Green, and Olive. In addition to that, I'll be using a couple of my Lavinia chalk paints, and I don't really take these out and use them often enough. So I have the whole collection in my craft room, and just thought instead of using my Posca pens today, I would show you another way that you could use these if you have them in your collection as well. So I have the Honeybee and the Soft Cyan. I also have some blue masking fluid to mask off the headdress and the eyes. I have a few blending brushes from Lavinia, just in the colors that I'll be using, which are mainly yellows, greens, and then that blue. You'll also want a fan brush and a wink of Stella. I have some old paint brushes, and I will show you how I try to keep those mostly soft so that I can reuse them again in the video. So you'll need a stamp block for that. And then just a variety of Mondelez watercolor pencils in some greens and yellows. So let's get this all set up and we'll get started. I'm going to start my project today by stamping Zia in the center of my multifarious cardstock, and I'm going to stamp that in Nocturne ink. And my stamp is a little bit bigger than my block, but the image is on the block, so it should stamp just fine. So I'll just go ahead and ink it up really well. These are some older Lavinia stamps, but they're new to my collection in that I have never used them before, so I'm excited to share this project with you today. So we will just line that up and center it as best I can. Just give it a press and hold it down and let that ink really soak into the cardstock. Anything we miss, we can come back with a black fine line marker at the end and touch it up. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how that came out. And I'm going to switch out that stamp for the headdress. So you just want to make sure you're inking those up really well. I'm not using a stamp platform today, so I won't be able to come back and re-stamp this if my image doesn't come out perfect. So you're hearing the pitter-patter of little feet in the background. We have a new puppy. She's so cute, but man, are they a lot of work. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out, so I'm going to come back in with my masking fluid and just paint it up. So I'm going to come back and use my masking fluid to paint in the headdress and probably her face, or at least the whites of her eyes. And before I do that, I am going to run my brush into a little puddle of liquid soap, and this just makes it easier to clean off your brush. Obviously, you don't want to use good brushes for your masking fluid, but it does make them last a little bit longer. All right, our masking fluid is dry, so I'm going to come back in with some lemon drop and just give a little glow around the back of that green man's hat. So we'll just lightly add a little bit. All right, I'm going to switch that out for some green sleeves. So I'm also going to switch my brush, since this is more of a green than a yellow. Okay, and use that to make our little forest man a little on the green side. All right, and I'm going to switch that back for some more lemon drop. All right, I'm going to use my fan brush and a little bit of water to add some splatter to the background. So I'll just spray it right onto my mat. And add a little bit up here. And we'll just mop a little of that up with a piece of paper towel. Now I'm going to use the leaf mask and just add a little bit of stenciling in the background. And I'm going to use my pine elements. Let's see, here we go. All right, now I'm going to erase my masking fluid, and let's go ahead and color in the headdress. All right, I think I'm going to use some greens, browns, a little yellow, and some gray to add shadow. So here's what I did. I used a variety of browns and some greens and this golden yellow to color in the little flowers on top of this forest man's head. Trying to stick with the colors that you would see out in nature. But what I am going to do is come back with my Link of Stella and just blend out the yellow flowers on the headdress and give it a little bit of shimmer, but not too much. Now I'll bring in my Inspire Me stamps and we'll just randomly add those to the background. And I'll stamp that with Twilight. So I'm going to come back with my Spiral of Spells and just add some background. And I really want to be choosy about the words that I'm picking. And one more up here. Here we go. And let's add a little bit of Midnight Blue around the edge. So just to add a little bit of light and magic to the background, I went ahead and pulled out a couple of my chalk paints, and I have this whole collection in my stash, and I almost never use them, so I just thought this might be a fun way to include them. So I'm gonna give them a little shake and add a little bit of water, because we definitely want to water them down. To get that splatter. So a couple drops should do. Mix it up. And all right. I didn't try this beforehand, so let's see how this comes out. And it's giving us a little bit of speckling without being too white. Okay. It's working out pretty well. All right, so there's the blue. Let's come back in with the yellow. I'll wipe that off, and we'll do the same thing with the honeybee. A little bit of water and a few drops of honeybee chalk paint. And let's get off the extra, and here we go. This is just a nice way to get a variety of color if you have all of these chalk paints in your collection and maybe you don't have the colors that you're looking for in a Posca pen. So we're getting that same effect. Okay, let's give it a few minutes to dry and we'll come back and put it together. Before I finish putting my card together, I just want to mention and point out that I did come back in with my Mondelez pencils and add a little bit of shading and detail to my Forest Man. So I added some yellow eyelashes and some shading around the cheeks and the eyes, and then a darker green on his lips. All right, so this is all dry and it's ready to put together. So I'm going to use just my glue pen and finish assembling my card. And you can use a glue pen if you want, but I did realize I said that, and this is actually a glue press. I really love it, and the glue in it lasts a long time. As a matter of fact, I even have added the Bippity Boppity glue to the inside of this tool. So they are refillable and just a nice thing to add to your art stash if you don't have one yet. I just like to give it a good beat around the outside and then a little extra on the inside to hold it down and give it a good stick. And just another helpful hint, when I folded my cardstock in half, sometimes I get a side that's a little bit longer than the other. So it gives it a little bit of a lip, and rather than trimming that off, what I like to do is use the bigger side for my front of my card. So we'll just center that right over our card. And there we have it, a man of the forest that I hope will remind the recipient of barbecues and time in the woods spent with friends in New England. I want to thank you for joining me today and remind you that we do have two Facebook groups, Del Bello's Designs Lounge for projects made using Lavinia stamps, and Del Bello's a la carte for projects made using Cardio, Sweet Poppy, and any other stamp lines that you like to use. See you soon.